and support. With this, I again welcome you all. Jai Hind.
Great, Vinay bhai. It was a great thing. And now I would request the course director, the versatile, the senior chartered accountant, and I would say a wizard on direct taxes also, Mr. Anil Mathur, to give a brief presentation about the course and the topic today. And I would also like to inform that Mr. VP Gupta, the learned speaker from Delhi, the senior advocate, a man who is delivering lectures day in, day out, a person who we always want to hear, has also joined. I welcome Mr. VP Gupta on behalf of all of you. But I would now request Shri Anil Mathur to say a few words.
Thank you, Pankaj. Well, we had a wonderful kickstart to this new 7 days webinar series organized by Aiftp Central Zone by Mr. Kapil Goyal. Today's subject is primarily on the request of many of the young members of the association and other chartered accountants and tax practitioners to know firsthand about the nitty-gritties of appearances before CIT appeal and tribunal and filing of respective forms, Form 35 and 36 with the appellate authorities. For this subject, we have got an excellent speaker in Mr. VP Gupta, advocate, who is a member of the association also from Delhi. Session is being chaired by a very senior chartered accountant from Jaipur, Mr. H.M. Singhvi. Both speaker and chairman together have more than 100 years experience in dealing day in, day out about this appearance before appellate forums, and therefore I think I'm very sure that with their deliberations and their their talk on the subject, we will have a wonderful session and it will be beneficial to all and sundries. Thank you very much. Over to Pankaj.
Thank you, sir. And with this, I would now request Sandeep Agarwal, the Secretary Central Zone, to say a few words. Sandeep Agarwal.
Hello, good afternoon, all of you. I welcome today's chairman, Shri H.M. Singhvi sir, very senior, very respected person for us. I'm thankful to today's speaker, VP Gupta ji, thankful to all office bearers of Central Zone and National Executive Committee. Thanks to Anil Mathur sir for giving his valuable time for organizing these webinars. Thank you all, and I welcome you all. Please keep tuned with us, stay with us for latest updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. It was wonderful to hear to you. Friends, I would just take 2 minutes to remind you, we had made some WhatsApp group and we had made the Telegram group also. I would request you, all the Telegram group links are in our messages which we are circulating. I would request each and everybody of you to please join the Telegram group also. And we will be putting the link to the Telegram group in all the WhatsApp group also. The benefit there is that we can have a large number of persons who can join in the Telegram group, and we can have a benefit of the latest webinars which the Aiftp Central Zone and UZU will be holding in the coming times. After the 7-day series of the certificate course of the income tax, we will be coming up with the GST, RERA and FEMA courses very shortly, and by the end of this course we would be announcing the next webinar series which will be in the month of August. Friends, I would also like to inform you that our chairman, senior chartered accountant Shri H.M. Singhvi sir has joined. I can simply say H.M. Singhvi sir is a Bhishma Pitama for all of us. He is again a very young old man. He is, I think, more than 85 years. And still, he has the zeal and working capacity and always giving blessings to the younger ones, always working in the interest of profession. He is a man who's a direct tax wizard, and you can ask any query anytime and a quick answer is always available with him. We will be benefited by his intelligence, by his maturity and by his guidance. He is a father figure for all of us. As far as today's speaker is concerned, Mr. VP Gupta, as an advocate from Delhi, he is mainly practicing in the tribunal, in the High Court, and in the appellate forums. He is again a master of direct taxes, and this topic is very apt for him. He has been a person who is always there whenever there is a need, whenever there is a requirement. And my friends, in the earlier session also, we had a speaker as Mr. P. Gupta as a speaker. And what a wonderful speaker he is. With these words, I think we are 2 minutes early. The motto of this AIFTP Central Zone is that we adhere to the timings. We adhere to the strict timings. 4 to 6, time zone is bifurcated. 4 to 5:15 for the speaker, 5:15 to 5:30 for the chairman, and then half an hour for the question and answer. And our National Vice President, Mr. Rajesh Mehta, the course coordinator, Mr. Anil Mathur, and of course the chairman would be there along with the learned speaker to give the answers on the queries, and whatever inputs, additional input they want to add, they will be adding. Mr. VP Gupta, again, I would be saying that he would be presenting his PPT and he would be discussing on the practical aspects on the CIT appearances before the CIT appeals and the income tax appellate tribunal. Friends, I would simply say his PPT has been shared in the chat box. It would be shared in all the WhatsApp group and the Telegram group. We are sending you the link of the Telegram group in the WhatsApp group. Please join us on the Telegram app also. If you have not downloaded it, download and join us there. And with this, I would now be inviting Mr. VP Gupta, the star speaker of today. VP Gupta, sir, can you unmute your mic?
Yes, yes, it is done.
Okay, sir.
Yes, yes.
We are talking about Mr. VP Gupta. Sir, you have to speak. You have to open your video.
I think it is already. Oh, yes, yes. Just a minute. Right, right.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
So, sir, I am putting you on the spotlight video. Just a minute. There it is. So, my dear friends, I hereby now request our star speaker of today, Mr. VP Gupta, to start his presentation, though we are still 1 minute short of the 4 o'clock. But let us begin with the timing. And it's now to you, sir. VP Gupta, sir, it is now to you.
Thanks a lot, Pankaj. First of all, I should congratulate you and express my gratitude for organizing such a course, which will be very helpful to many professionals. In fact, this IT refresher course, in fact, there is a need for organizing this sort of course from time to time. And this gives a lot of basic information as well as general idea about the many things to the professionals, particularly young professionals. So this sort of course are very much necessary. So I congratulate whole of the Central Zone team of AIFTP, and particularly Pankaj Ghia and Rajesh Mehta and Anil Mathur, also Mr. Vinay Jolly and Sandeep Agarwal for organizing this, and further giving me an opportunity to talk on this particular topic, which is a practical aspect of filing of the appeal and appearances bureaus. I am grateful to Mr. Singhvi also for chairing this session, and I will really be benefited by his experience. हमारे माथुर साहब ने कहा कि दोनों का मिलाकर के 100 से ज्यादा इयर्स का एक्सपीरियंस हो गया. मेरे ख्याल से ये प्रोपोजिशन ठीक नहीं है. ये नहीं कह सकते कि भाई एक आदमी अगर 10 किलोमीटर 1 घंटे में दौड़ता है तो 4 आदमी कितनी देर में दौड़ेंगे. वो जो है 15 मिनट में नहीं हो सकता. तो जो है, but anyway, I am thankful to Mr. Singhvi also, and I am sure that he will be adding many things to what I may be missing, in fact. So I look forward to hear him after I finish my presentation. So now I start with my presentation. My presentation, in fact, this primarily is on the practical aspects of filing of the appeal before CITA and ITAT, and appearances before CIT and ITT. So in this presentation today, we'll not be going much towards the case law side. We'll be discussing mainly the practical aspects, how the appeal is to be prepared, how it is to be argued, what documents are required, that sort of things we'll be discussing more in this presentation today. So going further, so let us start with the filing of the appeal with the Commissioner Appeal. Section 246A is the main section which provides various orders against which the appeal can be filed before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. As we all know, that Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals is the first appellate authority before whom the appeal is filed against the orders passed by the assessing officers. So assessing officer passed orders of assessment under various sections like 143(1)(a), 1 intimation, then 143(3), then 144, 153, 154, then TDA in regard to TDS 201, then in regard to penalties. So all these orders are appealable in appeal before Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. That is section 246A provides a list of the sections under which the orders passed by the assessing officer can be challenged in the appeal before Commissioner of Income Tax. So any assessee who is aggrieved by the order passed by the assessing officer under any of the sections specified therein can file an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. Now another section is section 248, under which also the appeal can be filed. This section is relating to filing of the appeal regarding deduction of tax at source while making payment to foreign parties. In certain cases, wherever the Indian party making a payment to the foreign party, but he himself is responsible for payment of tax on the remittance being made to the foreign company or foreign non-resident, then in that case, if his view is that tax amount is not payable, whereas the department determines that tax is payable, so in that case, after making payment of tax as per the determination of the assessing officer, he can file the appeal under section 248 of the Act. So these are the two sections which provides for the filing of the appeal. Now proceeding further, section 249 of the Act provides the procedure for filing the appeal, how the appeal is to be filed, in which form it is to be filed, within what time it is to be filed. So this procedural 249 is the procedural section. So first of all, the section provides that appeal is to be filed in the prescribed form, and prescribed form for this purpose is form number 35. Now form 35 is provided in the income tax rules in which the return appeal is to be filed. Prior to 1st March 2016, all these appeals were being filed manually. Now, after 1st March 2016, the appeal is required to be filed electronically. So now all the appeals before the Commissioner of Income Tax are to be filed electronically in form number 35. Now, this appeal is to be filed within a period of 30 days from the date of service of the relevant order against which the appeal is being filed. In case of a payment of TDS for non-residents, then these 30 days to be reckoned from the date of deposit of the tax, from the 30 days when the payment, from the date of payment of the tax. So it is to be filed. Now there is a now new section has come regarding penalties, section 270A. There is another section 270AA which provides that you can file an application before the assessing officer for immunity from levy of penalty. So under this section, if the application is filed and then application is rejected by the assessing officer, then this period of 30 days is to be counted, excluding the period taken by the assessing officer, which will be from the date of filing the application to the date of service of the rejection order. That period is to be excluded, because otherwise there is a difficulty, because you are not supposed to file the appeal if you are filing the application under section 270AA before the assessing officer. So then if the application is rejected, then that 30 days time will be already over. So for that, to safeguard that situation, it has been provided that period taken from the filing of application to the date of service of the order is to be excluded, and then 30 days to be counted for the purpose of filing of the appeal. Then the appeal is to be signed by the person who is entitled or authorized to sign the return of income in terms of section 140 of the Income Tax Act. I'm sure that all of us would be aware that who are the persons who are authorized to sign return of income under section 140 of the Act. Primarily, in case of a company, the return is to be filed by the managing director. And in case if for any reason he is not available or there is no managing director, then by the director. In case of individual, return is to be filed by the individual, signed by the individual himself. In case of HUF, it is to be signed by Karta. So this is what section 140 provides for filing of the return of income. So same person who is entitled to sign the return of income, verify the return of income, he has to verify the appeal also, form 35 also. Now, there is another condition also in this form 35 that the tax which is payable as per the SSC should have already been paid by the SSC as per the tax payable as per the return should be already paid by the SSC before the return, appeal is filed. Otherwise, the Commissioner Appeal may not admit the appeal itself. Though there is an exception provided that Commissioner can waive the condition of deposit of tax, but normally whatever the tax is payable as per the SSC, that is required to be paid by him before the appeal is filed. Now, further, the appeal is to be accompanied by the fees. That fees is provided in section 249 also, that in case the total income is less than rupees 1 lakh, then it is 250 rupees. In case income is between 1 lakh to 2 lakh, 500 rupees. In case income is more than 2 lakh, then 1000 rupees. Then in case of a appeal is regarding against penalty, etc., which is not directly related to total income, then 250 rupees. Then now we come to form 35, in fact, which is the important to go through the form 35. What are the details required therein? How we have to fill up the details, which is very important, in fact. So there are certain things which are procedural and which are no discussion is called for in the regard to these things. For example, personal information like name, PAN number, address, email. These, in fact, details are already picked up when we log in our site and open the form 35. So these details will automatically be captured by the form from the system. But in case we want to change anything, that can be done manually. Then we have to, there is second part of this form where we have to give the particulars of the order against which the appeal is being filed, like section in which the order has been passed, order number or DIN number, or date of the order, date of service of the order, or the income tax authority who has passed the order. Then third part of this is the pending details of pending appeals. So in the form 35, we are also supposed to give the details of the pending appeals which are pending before various, either before Commissioner Appeal, any of the Commissioner Appeal, but any appeal is pending. So that details is required to be given in that part. Then we have to give the appeal detail. Appeal detail means the particular amount of income assessed by the assessing officer, total addition made by him, then what are the amount of additions we are disputing, then what is the amount of disputed demand, if in case it is of penalty, then how much is the penalty, so that particulars have to be given in this form. Then details of the tax paid. As I mentioned, that tax is required to be paid before filing the return, at least on the return income. So we have to give a detail that how much tax has been paid, how much was the tax payable as per the return, and how much the amount has been paid. That is what has to be given here. Then comes very important part of this form, which is the statement of facts, grounds of appeal, and additional evidence, etc. So there is a different columns in this form 35, which requires specific details to be given. Firstly, we have to give the statement of facts. So a statement of facts has to be properly given in the form itself. It is to be typed in the form itself, and there is a restriction that it should not exceed more than 1000 words. So our expertise is required to draft the statement of facts. Our emphasis has to be that all the facts which are necessary or which are the basis on which the assessment has been done, or on the basis we are challenging the assessment order before the Commissioner Appeal, this statement of facts should precisely cover all the facts. Many times I have seen that in the past that practitioners are not giving statement of facts properly, and they are just saying that facts will be explained at the time of hearing. In my personal view, this should not be done, for the reason that if we give the statement of facts, then the commissioner appeal, even if for any reason we are not able to attend the appeal before commissioner appeal and ex parte order is required to be passed by the commissioner for any reason, then if the statement of facts are there before him, then he is bound to consider the statement of facts and what we have stated therein. So he cannot dismiss the appeal like that after we have given the facts. So it is very necessary that in the appeal form 35 we must mention these facts, and same should be very concisely, precisely to the point and cover all the aspects, because limitation is there of the 1000 words. So we have to draft in such a manner that it covers all the aspects of the appeal, all the disallowances what have been made by the assessing officer. Maybe we are writing in a very short facts in respect to each of the issue, but we must write facts in respect of each of the issue, and so that it is clear that what are the facts of our case on the basis of which we are filing this appeal. Then second part of this is grounds of appeal. Again, the drafting of the grounds, I will again discuss in detail drafting of the grounds. So here I am not going into detail. I'll just a moment after I will again go in detail. But grounds have also to be very specific. Each issue should be contained in each ground. There should not be multiplicity of the grounds for a particular issue, or there should not be any issue left out and all that. Then there is a column in this that what are the list of the documents being submitted. Practically, so far we have not been submitting any documents with the appeal. We have just been filing form 35 and we have submitting all the documents at the time of hearing of appeals. So for the time being, we can continue with the same practice. We can write there the documents will be submitted at the time of hearing. But I presume that in the coming time, we'll have to give all the documents here, like DRP. When we file objections before DRP, then we are supposed to give all copies of documents which are relied upon, and even the additional evidence, etc. Everything is required to be given at that very stage. So probably that is the intention. This is why the new form, which is to be filed electronically, it says list of documents being filed. So, but for the time being, general practice is that we write that this same will be filed at the time of hearing. But as I'm saying that in the coming time, we may have to enclose everything. Then there is a further a statement is required to be made whether all the documents which are being submitted were before the lower authority or not. We have to say yes or no. So if they were before the lower authorities, we have to say yes. So at the first stage, we have to enclose all the documents or refer all the documents only which were there before the assessing officer, on the basis of which he has taken a decision which we are challenging. Then there is a further column in this that whether any additional evidence is being filed. So there, if we have to file any additional evidence in regard to any of the grounds, which may be for various reasons, we will be discussing, coming to that point also a little later, that how the additional evidence is to be discussed and filed. So rule 46A is to that effect. So we must mention there that whether we will be filing additional evidence or not. If we have to file, then I'll suggest that we should mention here itself, yes, we'll be filing additional evidence in terms of rule 46A because so and so reason. Maybe one line we may give there because so and so, because reasons are there. We will be discussing to that a little later. So we must, in this form itself, we should mention that. Then the question comes a delay, whether there is another column, whether there is a delay in filing the appeal. As I mentioned, that appeal is required to be filed within 30 days from the date of service of the notice or the order, which is against which the appeal is being filed. So if there is no delay, then we can mention that there is no delay, it is within time. But in case there is a delay, then it is this specifically form require whether there is a delay. So we should say yes. Then next column of the form also require the reasons for the delay. We should be very particular and specific in mentioning the reasons. We'll be coming to this aspect also a little later. But what I say that condonation of delay is a matter of discretion to the commissioner, and we have to prove that there was sufficient reasons for delay, then only the appeal can be admitted. Otherwise, the appeal can be rejected at the outset on the ground of the delay in filing the appeal. So we have to be very cautious and particularly we should mention the reason also very precisely here, that what has been the reason for delay. So we should, the why delay should be condoned. Then again, with the Form 35, we have to file, present practice has been that we have been filing the copy of the order against which the appeal is being filed, and then notice of demand in original was required to be filed. But now, since electronically it is being filed, we have to file the scanned copy of the order as well as the notice. But in the coming time, because the order is already there, will be on the site ITBA, and the reference number of the order or DIN number is being given. So maybe in few henceforth, this order copy may not be required to be filed with the appeal because this is already available. But so far, this order as well as notice of demand is required to be submitted along with Form 35, even electronically. Now, going further, as I mentioned in the brief, that statement of facts should be very concise, should contain all relevant facts, and most importantly, it should not contain any arguments. It should be a statement of facts, means only precisely the facts. No contention, argumentative or any contention should come in the state of facts. That is the part of the grounds of appeal. So we should not mix up two things. Many times our professional colleagues mix up the two things. Either they will prefer the ground like a statement of facts or the statement of facts like a grounds of appeal. So we should understand the difference between two things. Statement of facts means just precisely facts of each of the key contention or the issue involved in the appeal. Then grounds have to be for grounds for each grounds. Now coming to the drafting of the grounds, this is a very important aspect of how the grounds have to be drafted. And Mr. Singhvi and all our senior colleagues which are there, they will appreciate that this is a very special art, that how grounds have to be appealed. In many times we observe, particularly in the tribunal, that grounds are there before the tribunal. Tribunal at the outset, whenever they go through the grounds, they will say, what are these grounds? You again prepare the concisely, prepare point-wise ground, you prepare and then come back to us. So many times this position happen. So we should try to avoid this sort of a situation either before commissioner appeal or before the tribunal. And grounds drafting should be very carefully done. So first of thing is that there is a particular format in the Form 35 for giving the grounds. There are three columns in that. First is the serial number. Then second column says issue. So in the issue, we should just mention precisely what is the issue. Say, disallowance of so-and-so expenses. Only that much. Then comes the ground. Then in the ground, we'll say that assessing officer has erred in disallowing will be so much without considering so-and-so facts. Then in the appeal, we should also, though it is not very helpful in many cases, but as a matter of practice, this is required, or we should take, in fact, sometimes it is helpful also, we should take a general ground challenging the assessment order passed by the assessing officer and raising the demand. So generally, we will raise the ground like this, that assessing officer has erred in passing the order of assessment dated so-and-so, determining the taxable income of rupees so much without considering facts and the circumstances and the relevant case law, and raising a demand of rupees so much without following the principles of natural justice or giving proper opportunity. So this sort of a general ground, many times when in the written submission, we may not specifically give contention for all this particular ground, but in certain circumstances, this ground can be helpful. If we have missed something in specific grounds, then we can say this ground is already there and this ground will cover so-and-so point. So this is why it is suggested that we should take at the outset a general ground challenging the determination of income, passing the order and raising the demand itself. Then specific grounds needs to be raised for each of the disallowance made by the assessing officer. One ground should relate to one issue. So therefore, we have to be very particular that firstly, all the disallowances or all the issues taken by the assessing officer in the order should be there in each of the grounds. So equal number of grounds should be there as the disallowances have been made. In certain ground, in regard to certain issues, we may have to raise more than one ground. So because say for example 14A was a very controversial issue. So 14A may particularly he might have determined the as per rule 8D. So we may have to say that he wrongly applied rule 8D. The assessing officer erred in wrongly applying rule 8D and determining the disallowance will be so much. Second ground can be there, which is a different aspect, that the assessing officer erred in not appreciating that my whole of the investment was made out of my own funds and no interest cost was incurred. So these two grounds needs to be taken separately because they are two independent separate issues. In fact, maybe the disallowance is one, but issues are separate. Firstly, we are saying applicability of rule 8D. Secondly, we are saying that I have my own funds, therefore investment was out of my own funds, no disallowance was made. Thirdly, there can be even for administrative expenses, that I have not incurred any administrative expenses, therefore no disallowance was called for. So in this, so preferably earlier we have used to take in the one ground itself A, B, C, D like that. But now the present format doesn't provide for that sort of a B, C, D, because we have to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. And the commissioner also, while deciding the appeal, goes in that way. So maybe in regard to this sort of a particular issue, we may have to take 3, 4 grounds, but we should cover each aspect of the issue. That is very important. We should not leave anything for subsequently. Then one ground should be for one issue. The ground should be clear and raise relevant legal and factual issues. This is very important. We should be very clear in drafting the language. It should not contain the facts. It should be directly hitting, after reading a ground, one should get a clear idea that what we are trying to contend. Say, as I have given, that the assessing officer erred in not properly applying the relevant provisions of section 14A and rule 8D and wrongly determining so and so. So straightway the things comes. Or we may say that he has wrongly disallowed the depreciation without considering the proper actual cost of the asset. So the ground itself, it should be only not more than 3-4 lines. There is a restriction also that each ground should not be more than 100 words. There is a restriction in the form itself. So we should draft the ground in such a manner that it should immediately give an idea to the person reading the ground that what is the issue we are raising about, whether it is a legal or it is a factual. That is also he might not have followed a particular decision of a judicial high court. So our ground has to be clearly that the assessing officer erred in making this disallowance without following the decision of so and so, disregarding the decision of so and so of the judicial high court. So this give a clear idea. This decision was there and he has not followed. So that is very important. We should take care of this, that it should be clear, raise a relevant legal or factual issue as the case may be. Then in many cases, that issue arises that assessing officer has not followed the principle of natural justice. He might not have given proper opportunity. Particularly in the recent past, what the assessments were done in the December 2019, in most of the cases this has happened, that assessing officers had given 2 days time, 3 days time like that to the assessees for furnishing details. So though assessee could not submit details in those particular time, and therefore the additions have been made. So we have to take a specific ground for that purpose, that assessing officer passed the order without giving proper opportunity to the assessee to submit details, or without following the principles of natural justice, or without giving an opportunity for hearing, or if he has relied on some evidence which was not made available to you, say he has relied on the statement of somebody and on that basis he has made addition under section 68. So you should give that he has made the addition without providing me the copy of the statement of the so and so on which he has relied upon, or you might have required cross-examination. He might not have provided cross-examination. So we should take a specific ground that he erred in making addition without providing opportunity for cross-examining so and so on whose statement he is relied upon. So what I mean to say that we have to be very specific in regard to the grounds, and then in case the AO has not considered any of the facts or evidences supplied by you, then we must take the ground to that effect, that the assessing officer erred in making the addition without considering the facts and evidence or details submitted under letter dated so and so. Let us be very specific about each of the things. Similarly, the information he has relied on, as I have already discussed, that he relied upon some information or evidence which was not provided. Then statement, he might have relied the statement cross-examination I have already mentioned. Then we should also take a ground that initiation of penalty proceedings. Though it is in many cases, most of the cases, it becomes a formal sort of a ground, but I will always suggest that we should take a ground for initiation of penalty proceedings. But in certain circumstances, it may be helpful, and we may be, though penalty proceedings are totally independent and they are separately appealable. So most of the time, the commissioner will dismiss this particular ground, saying that this is premature, and therefore that is separately appealable and it is not being considered. But if we want to insist upon, then we can press this ground and we can say initiation itself was wrong. So therefore, why should I go further for the proceedings? So normally we do not insist for all these things because the penalty proceedings is separately appealable. But in certain circumstances, it may be necessary and it may be desirable that we have to strongly argue this ground also, that initiation itself was wrong and penalty proceeding could not be initiated on the particular facts and circumstances of the case. Similarly, a formal ground can be taken that he has wrongly calculated the tax or the interest charged by him in the order. Because many times what happens, that most of the time we are dealing with our clients, and particularly in companies, they are executives. So at the time the assessment order comes or demand is raised, so they do not take even care to calculate and verify whether demand has been correctly calculated or interest has been correctly calculated. They will just forward the assessment order to you and will say that kindly draft the appeal and file it. So sometimes it may not be possible to verify the correctness of the calculation at that stage, or maybe at that stage we have verified, but still some mistake may be there which has not been noticed there. Therefore, it is better to take a ground that the assessing officer are in wrongly determining the demand or charging interest, wrongly calculating the same, so that there is no harm. If there is no mistake, then we will not press this particular ground. But in case if need be, then we can press this ground and we can point out to the commissioner that this is the mistake. Then lastly, a formal ground is taken, which again, in most of the cases it is not used, and there is a separate process for the admission of additional ground. But still, the ground is taken. This can be helpful in certain circumstances. We take a general ground that lastly, that assessing the appellant are pray for the modification or admission of additional ground at any time here and after or during the course of hearing the appeal. So this is how the grounds needs to be drafted and given in Form 35 itself. Now another aspect is the delay in filing the appeal. As I mentioned earlier, in Form 35, you have to mention whether the appeal is being filed within time. If yes, no difficulty. If no, then we have to give the reasons why there is a delay and why the delay should be condoned. Condonation of delay is again a very important aspect of things. In many cases, there may be delay for many reasons, unintentional, maybe on the part of the SSC, maybe on the part of the council. There can be a number of reasons for which the delay can be there. So condonation of delay, power is there before commissioner, but that is to be exercised only if we are able to show sufficient cause for not presenting the appeal within the specified time. So important word is sufficient cause. So for the delay, there should be sufficient cause for delay, then only the delay can be condoned. Otherwise, the commissioner will straightway reject the appeal on the ground of the delay and will not entertain the same. So this is why, as I mentioned earlier, in Form 35 itself, we should give you precisely the reasons why there is a delay, and reasons should be convincing. Now the courts by and large have been of the view that the authorities should be liberal in condoning the delay. But on the other side, there is also a principle that each day's delay needs to be explained. So one has to explain what is the reason for the delay, and then only after that liberal approach will come in. It cannot be that I just say that there is a delay for 2 years, kindly condone this. Nobody is going to condone the delay. there is a no time limit that how much delay can be condoned. Even 10 days delay may not be condoned, and even 5 years delay may be condoned. This everything depend upon the facts and depend upon the reasons, what have been the reasons for the delay in filing the appeal, and how we have put up the reasons for condonation. That is very, very important. So justification for sufficient cause has to be given, and that will depend upon the facts. So we have to very carefully dig out the facts for which the delay is there, and then we have to frame justification, that what sort of language and words should be used to justify that delay. Then only we can expect that delay will be condoned and then appeal will be admitted. So this is very important part. As I mentioned, I'm not going into the case law and that, but there's many case law on this aspect. What is the sufficient cause? In many circumstances, a long delay can be condoned. In certain circumstances, even a short delay may not be condoned. Everything depends on the facts of things. Then we come the stay application. This is another aspect very important, that huge demands generally raised by the assessing officers, particularly in the past we have seen. So the section 220 subsection 6 provides the assessing officer has the power to stay the demand till the decision of the appeal by the first appellate authority. There are instructions of CBDT also which says that 20% demand should be paid, then only the balance will be stayed by the assessing officer. Although that 20% is not a fixed criteria, courts have taken a view that even the full demand may be stayed in certain circumstances. The assessing officer is required to consider the circumstances and then only apply his mind whether a stay should be granted or not granted, how much should be granted, or whether even 20% should be insisted upon or not. Apart from the powers assigned to the assessing officer in terms of section 20 subsection 6, though there is no specific power given to commissioner appeal in this section, but the courts have interpreted or taken a view, particularly the Supreme Court in the case of MK Muhammad Kunni 71 ITR has taken a view that this is an inherent power of any appellate authority. When appeal is pending before the appellate authority, he can exercise all in powers which are relevant and which can give necessary relief to the assessee. So this is one of the inherent power to be given the commissioner appeal, who is an appellate authority, to grant the stay in justified or reasonable cases. So therefore, in case there is a difficulty in getting the stay from the assessing officer or from the administrative commissioner, then it is always advisable to file the stay application before the Commissioner of Income Tax appeal. There is a practical difficulty, all of us knows very well, that Commissioner appeal is very reluctant in exercising their powers of stay or demand, and therefore many times when the things have been physically being done, they will not accept even the stay application. They will threat you that if you file the stay application, I will dismiss the appeal immediately. But notwithstanding all the threats which have been there, and maybe even today, we should file the stay application and forcefully make out our case before the Commissioner of Appeal. And in case we insist that he should decide, he is bound to decide our stay application. And in many cases, it may be necessary that even if he directs us to make certain payment, we may have to go in High Court against that order. We straightway against the order of the Commissioner granting the or directing us to make payment of a particular amount, we can go to the High Court. And there are many cases. I have also filed the petitions in many cases in the High Court when the Commissioner of Appeal has insisted that or directed that so much demand should be paid, this, depending upon the facts of this case. So apart from the Supreme Court decision which I mentioned, there are no time to time the matter has come up before the courts, and courts have said that Commissioner of Appeal has the inherent power and he should exercise the power for the stay of demand. Now, another very important aspect is filing of the additional evidence before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. You see, as a matter of practice, all of us should adopt very careful approach that all the necessary documents, details and contentions, legal submissions should be submitted before the assessing officer himself in respect of all the issues which are raised by him. And every document should be on record so that we did not give any additional evidence before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. But in many circumstances, practically it happens that either we are not provided proper opportunity, or the assessing officer has asked for very voluminous details and period given is just 2 days, because in most of the cases the assessing officer start the proceedings at a very late stage, and when it is a time barring date, they say I have to finalize the assessment, I can't give any more time, and so you are helpless, and therefore addition is made without you are giving details or considering details. So in those circumstances it becomes necessary that additional evidence should be given. Rule 46A of the income tax rules provides certain circumstances in which the additional evidence can be admitted by the commissioners. They are that where the assessing officers refuse to admit the evidence which ought to have been admitted by him, or where the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause from producing the evidence which he was called upon to produce. As I have said that if he asked for volume and detail within 2 days, I will not be able to give. So I was prevented by sufficient cause. Where the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause producing before the assessing officer any evidence in the relevant to any ground of appeal, particular issue pay, I could not furnish the details. Then where the assessing officer has made the order appeal against the without giving sufficient opportunity. He has not given me any opportunity. Say he has asked for me certain details, I have given all the details. Then out of those details, he picked up certain items and make the disallowance without giving me further notice or opportunity that why this disallowance should not be made. In case he will give me the opportunity, I'll try to explain and further substantiate those particular issues. But he might not have given me sufficient opportunity. Therefore, additional evidence needs to be admitted. For this purpose, a specific application is to be filed before the Commission of Appeal along with the copy of the relevant documents. That application and documents have to be filed in duplicate, and for the reason that if the Commissioner of Appeal is convinced that this needs to be admitted, then he is required to send one copy of the same to the assessing officer for his comments, and assessing officer will give the comments, and then the Commissioner of Appeal will final take a view on the additional documents being submitted before him. So this rule 46A is there, as we have seen, that provide various circumstances. Now again the questions comes of interpretation. So the Commissioner of Appeal has to exercise his power judiciously and cannot just dismiss that I will not admit like that. So he has to make out a case. We are also required to explain why details are not submitted. He is also required to, in case he is not admitting, then he is required to pass a reasoned order why he is not admitting. So principles of natural justice is required to be followed in case he is not admitting the additional evidence. Now, Commissioner of Appeal, this is specifically provided, Commissioner of Appeal should record in writing the reasons for its admission. Well, either way, yes, in case he is admitting, then he should record the reason why he is admitting. In case he is not admitting, then he should record why he is not admitting. Then he has to allow the reasonable opportunity to the assessing officer to examine the evidence or documents and then give his review about it. Then apart from this, my submitting additional evidence, the Commissioner also has the power to ask for any further information from me or get any inquiry done by the assessing officer. So he, under subsection 4 of section 250, Commissioner is empowered to make further inquiry or call for any additional document. In that case, no application is required. In the case Commissioner require any further information, then even the assessing officer cannot challenge that this admission should not be made or anything like that. This is the prerogative of the Commissioner to ask for any further information and examine and make a decision thereon. Now we come to the proceedings before the Commissioner. They say this is a part of the filing of the appeal. Now I am coming to the appearance part of the things. Okay, how the appeal is to be argued or how the preparation is to be done for arguing the appeal before the Commissioner. Commissioner will fix up the hearing for a particular date. I hope I am audible clearly to everybody. So Commissioner has to fix an appeal for hearing. Then he has to allow me, in case I am raised an additional ground or additional evidence, then he has to take a decision on that, that regard. Then I am supposed to prepare and file the paper book, whatsoever documents I want to rely. As I mentioned that the form itself requires list of documents, but normally so far the practice has been that we prepared the paper book containing all the documents which are being relied upon. So we will file the paper book before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. In case we are giving additional evidence, then for additional evidence, we have to prepare a separate paper book. In the same paper book, we cannot merge. One paper book has to prepare for all the documents which were there before the assessing officer. And the other paper book we need to prepare if we are giving any additional documents. Then we have also to prepare a separate compilation of case law. If we are relying upon a certain case law, then we must take out a copy of the case law and we must prepare a compilation, because the Commissioner Appeal, when we are arguing, then Commissioner Appeal will not be having the advantage of immediately taking out the copy of the judgments. So therefore, it is preferable that we should prepare the compilation of the case law and we should give one copy to the Commissioner Appeal and the other copy should be in our hand, and then we should rely upon and discuss the case law we are relying upon. Then we have to prepare written submissions. This is again a very important part, that we have to prepare written submission. You see, the law does not require anyway that written submission needs to be given before the Commissioner Appeal. But it is always necessary and desirable that we should prepare the written submissions, give to the Commissioner, because our practical experience is that in case by any chance you do not give the written submission to the Commissioner, then he will not, because generally they do not make proper noting also. In the tribunal members generally make proper notings about the arguments being made by us, but Commissioner Appeal do not make any notings, etc. So there will be total mess if we do not submit the written submissions. So it is better to give the written submissions. But now lately, all the notices which are being received from the Commissioner Appeal for hearing, though notices mentioned that if you don't want to argue, send your written submissions before so and so date, and also required written submissions to be sent in the soft form on email. That is also a content of the notice. So written submission should be prepared. Again, drafting of the written submission itself is very important. In fact, written submission should be prepared in such a manner that we should mention each ground wise. Firstly, there should be ground. Starting, we can say that this appeal is being filed. This appeal has been filed against order of the assessing officer dated so and so, passed under section so and so, and following grounds have been raised in the appeal. So, firstly, this will contain the very fact that these are the grounds or this is against the order. Then we may say that facts and contention in respect to each of the grounds are being discussed here and after. Then we say ground wise. Ground one, this ground relates to so and so disallowance made by the assessing officer. Then in the brief we will write the facts, that facts are like that, and then we will also refer the details given to the assessing officer during the course of hearing, that we gave so and so detail to the assessing officer by letter dated so and so, copy of which is given in the paper book on pages so and so. We will give a reference to that, and then come the contention in that. Contentions may we have to give a clear contention that why assessing officer is wrong in making the disallowance. So maybe point wise we may have to give contention that he wrongly relied upon, or he wrongly observed, or he wrongly did not consider our facts and all that. And then lastly comes the case law. Whatever case law in regard to each of the ground or each of the contention we want to rely upon, we should refer the case law. It is not necessary that we reproduce the case law what we are relying upon, because we are giving separately the case law compilation. But still the important case law, we should give extract from the important case law, and then after that we can give a list of the cases being relied upon. Because if we do not give the name of the cases in the written submissions and give separately the case law compilation, he may not refer to the case law compilation at all, and he may say no case law has been relied upon. So to avoid that situation, in the written submission itself, we should mention firstly the facts, then contention, and then case law. Case law may, if there is a basic case law, we should give a extract from that, and then we say this has been followed in so many cases, and these we rely upon on so and so cases. We can give the list of the cases thereon. So that is and then lastly we'll prepare the prayer that it is prayed that Commissioner of Income Tax may please direct the assessing officer to delete this disallowance. In this manner, we have to discuss each and every ground of the appeal. Then, while coming to the personal hearing of the appeal, you see, many times it depends upon what are the issue, how the issue is there, and discussed in the written submissions, in the order, and all that. But in the personal arguments, we should be conscious of the fact that he is not going to listen to us for hours together. So we should be very precise, and you should try to point out in such a manner, then in a very short time, we are able to, in one or two sentences, we may say that we have so and so fact, the assessing officer, we had given all details before the assessing officer, and the assessing officer has held so and so, which is against this decision or without considering our case law or against considering the facts, and therefore this appeal is being filed against this ground and this ground. We have discussed this point in detail in a written submission on page so and so. So we may immediately take him to the relevant page of the paper book or the written submissions. So we have to be very precise, and we have to be to the point. So he is able to grasp and understand what we are trying to say. And in case he is able to immediately understand, then we may succeed. If we start arguing in a very detailed manner, because practically all of us would have observed that sometimes we prepare a very detailed written submissions for a very even single small issue, then that confuses the whole issue. Say, for example, in one case, I'm just giving a practical example of this. Okay? One case, the car was registered in the name of a partner of a firm, and then assessing officer disallowed the deposition because the car is not registered in the name of the firm. On that basis, disallowance of the car was only, say, 50,000 rupees, and this was a big case, and amount involved is, say, 5 crore rupees in the appeal. So now, if for 50,000 rupees, I prepare, there are a lot of case law on this, that it is not necessary that it should be registered in the name of the firm itself. It can be registered in the name of the partner also, or even case of a company. In certain cases, it can be registered even in the case of employee himself, but being used for the purpose of the company. So it is not necessary that I should prepare 50 pages, giving 50 cases for disallowance of 50,000 rupees. So we have to be conscious about these things. How much is the amount involved? What is the issue? What is the legal? So I may have to, in very short, I may just say that this is the fact that car was registered in the name of the partner. He wrongly disallowed the deposition to me. There is a Supreme Court decision on this so and so, which says this. So I need not say more than half page for this particular ground, because amount is so small. Even if, for example, assuming that he doesn't understand, he disallow, it will be only a question of 50,000 rupees, but I may be getting time to explain to him other important things, which will involve much more amount. So this is what I'm just giving a practical aspect of the things, how the appeal needs to be argued. We have to be very cautious about all these things, because after hearing for 1 hour or so, commissioner will be fed up and he will say, no, ho gaya, I will look into the papers, and then you are supposed to go out. So we have to be very careful about all these things. Now, this is a procedural again thing that commissioner has to pass an order in writing, and while passing the order, he is required to record all the facts, contentions, and then adjudicate each of the grounds. Then he has the power either to confirm, reduce, enhance, annul assessment. This is very important that he has the power of enhancement also. So many times commissioner appeal very much give a threat to us that I'll enhance your income. So we have to very cautiously deal with this sort of a threat also. So we should not annoy also commissioner appeal while arguing the appeal, because many times it happens that if you are insisting, he will threat you that what are you talking about? This is it. Everything is correct. I'll further enhance this. So we have to be very cautious about all these matters. Then order needs to be communicated to the SSC. Then there is another very important aspect, that commissioner appeal is required to decide the appeal on merits, even if for any reason I have not been able to attend the proceeding before him and make my submissions. And in this context, I refer to that statement of facts and grounds of appeals of our appeal are very important. Because if, for example, any reason the assessee or the professional who is attending the case is not able to attend the proceeding before the Commissioner Appeal, and then he passed the ex parte order, so still he is required to consider what has been there on the record. So what I have stated in the facts, what grounds I have taken, he cannot just, the tribunal has a power. Tribunal for not prosecution of the appeal, tribunal can dismiss. But Commissioner Appeal cannot dismiss. Commissioner has to decide the appeal on merits. He may have to call the record from the assessing officer, or so therefore our statement of facts and grounds of appeals are very important, so that he's, even if he is deciding ex parte, he has on record the relevant facts and the grounds which he is required to adjudicate. In fact. Now, lately with this Finance Act 2020, subsections 6B, 6C and also 6D have been inserted in section 250 of the Income Tax Act, which provides for the e-proceedings. These are subsections virtually the same which were inserted earlier in section 143 for assessment proceedings. So now henceforth the government's intention is that even Commissioner Appeal proceedings will be e-proceedings. So the process is being developed, system will be developed. So as for the assessment, then there will be e-proceedings for the Commissioner Appeals also. Now, against the order of the Commissioner Appeal, we can also file rectification application in case there is any factual or the legal mistake. So we have to, we have similar powers as 144 we have for filing the same time limit, 4 years time limit, all that. In case there is any mistake, he has not adjudicated any ground, then we can file the, I'm not going into detail with all that. We are aware of the powers of 144. Then we come to the ITAT's appeal. Now, again, for the purpose of ITAT, section 253 of the section act provides for the powers against which the appeal is required to be filed. Subsection 1 of section 253 enumerates the orders against which the appeal can be filed before the ITAT. Primarily, all the orders which are passed by the Commissioner Appeal, they are appealable before the ITAT. That is one part of things. In addition to that, order passed by the Commissioner, Administrative Commissioner under section 263 is appealable before ITAT. Then any order passed by the DIT exemption or CIT exemption under section 12A or now 12AB or 80G for withdrawing or not granting registration or approval, etc. for two charitable trusts, they can be appealed in the ITAT. Then in case of DRP, order has been passed as per directions of the dispute resolution panel, then the order, that order is appealable to ITAT, not to the Commissioner Appeal. Because as we all know, dispute resolution panel contained 3 commissioners and the order is passed by the assessing officer as per the directions of the DRP. So for that reason, the law has provided that appeal against the order will go straightway to the ITAT, not to the Commissioner Appeal. Then appeal, subsection 2 of 253 provides the similar power to the department to file the appeal against the order of CITA to the ITAT. Then the appeal before the ITAT is to be filed within a period of 60 days from the communication of the relevant order to the assessing officer or the commissioner, as the case may be. Then section 253 further, subsection 4 further authorizes you file to a cross objection, because many cases, say for example, 147 reopening was done in your case. You have, before commissioner, you have challenged the reopening of assessment, validity of reopening of assessment, as well as addition made on merits. Commissioner Appeal has dismissed your ground regarding validity of assessment, but has deleted the additions made by the assessing officer merits. So since the additions have already been deleted by the Commissioner Appeal, you may not like to go to the appeal to ITAT against the order of rejecting your validity issue by the commissioner. So in that circumstances, you might not have filed appeal before ITAT, but department might go in appeal against deletion of the additions made by the Commissioner Appeal. So when this notice of the appeal is received by you, then the law permits you to file cross objections against the appeal, which are to be filed within 30 days from the date of the notice, receipt of the notice of filing the appeal by the other party. So this cross objection can be filed notwithstanding that you might not have filed the appeal against the order before the ITT within the provided time. This cross objection needs to be filed within 30 days, and no fees is also payable while filing the cross objections. Cross objections are registered by the registry of the ITT in the same manner as an appeal, though they are called cross objection number so and so, and they have to be disposed of by the ITT in the same manner as if you would have filed the appeal originally. Now, again, there is the issue of condonation of delay in case you have not filed the appeal or the cross objection within the specified time. ITT has the power to condone the delay, but again, you have to show your sufficient reasons for the delay, then only the delay can be condoned. Now, the appeal to the ITT needs to be filed in form number 36. Form 36 also again require basic information and everything and grounds, etc. So, I'm not going into detail in that form. All similar details are called for. Then cross objections are required to be filed in form 36A. Then appeal or memorandum cross objections have to be signed in the same manner by the person authorized under section 140 of the Act. Same person who is authorized to file the return of income, same person has to sign the appeal or cross objection also before ITT. Then before ITT, fees is also payable for filing the appeal. In case assessed income is less than 1 lakh, 500 rupees. If income is 1 lakh to 2 lakh, 1,000 rupees. If income is more than 2 lakh, then 1% of the assessed income subject to maximum of 10,000 rupees. Then in case the appeal relates to any other matter not against the assessment order, then 500 rupees. Then the income tax appellate tribunal rules are there, which provides for many things. There specific procedures are there. That rule specifically says that memorandum of appeal should be written in English. It should set forth concisely the grounds. Grounds of appeal have to be without any argument or narrative. That is specifically provided. What I talked about in the context of the Commission of Income Tax Appeal, it is specifically provided in the Rule 8 of Income Tax Appellate Tribunal rules. Then ground should be numbered consecutively. That is also there. Then Rule 9 of Income Tax Appellate Tribunal rules provide that every memorandum of appeal shall be in triplicate, and it should be accompanied by 2 copies of the order appealed against, out of which 1 copy should be certified. In fact, now every copy is certified. Earlier, this language has been, earlier they are certified, meaning used to be that certified means the authority who has passed the order. Because still in many cases, say for example against High Court, we are going in the Supreme Court, then we need a certified copy from the High Court. Similar position has been there earlier in regard to the ITT also, but subsequently it was amended that now certified means even the council can certify it. So, but still the language is that 1 copy has to be certified order, and then 2 copies of the order of the assessing officer, and then 2 copies of the grounds of appeal and statement of facts before the Commission of Income Tax Appeals. And then in case the appeal is against the penalty order, then it has to be the order of the assessment order also have to be filed. And then if there is a order under 143.3 has been passed as per directions of the Joint Commissioner or Additional Commissioner, then 2 copies of the directions under section 144A have also to be filed along with the appeal. Then you see there have been the difficulty that sometimes after filing the appeal, address changes or the name of the company changes. So earlier there was no specific rule in this regard. So we used to file the letter with the registry for intimating the change of address or change in the name. But most of the times it was being held that those letters were not being taken on record and address was not being changed in the registry, and therefore the notices were coming and the old address which were being missed and ex parte orders were being passed by ITT. For that particular reason, Now Rule 9A has been inserted, and this specifically provides that wherever there is a change in the name and address of the party, the appellant should file the revised Form 36 in the same manner as it was filed originally. So we have to file these again. Revised return Form 36 is required to be filed when there is a change in the name or the address. But there is one difficulty in this regard. Say in my case, appeal has been filed by the department and my address changes. Then there is no clarity in this rule itself that what is to be done, because the appellant is department. My address or my name has changed. I cannot file the Form 36 because I am not the appellant. So in those cases, still there is a difficulty. So I will just mention that we have to file the letter only in those cases also. Now there is a procedure for filing the paper book also as per the income tax supplementary rule. Rule 18 of income tax rules provides that paper book firstly contain only the documents which were relied upon before the lower authorities. That is condition number 1. Because again, the principle here is also that any additional document can be submitted only with the leave of the court. Otherwise, we cannot submit. Then paper book has to be properly indexed, properly paged. Each page has to be certified. It has to be legible. It should contain the documents which are not before which cannot contain the documents which are not before the lower authorities, or it should be submitted to the opposite party at least 1 week before the date of hearing. But in the registry, it can be submitted 1 day before the date of hearing also. Then the parties to the appeal shall not be entitled to produce any additional evidence or oral evidence or document without the leave of the bench. So for that purpose, if you want to give some additional evidence, we have to file an additional particular application before the honorable bench for giving our reason or justification why we want to submit additional evidence, and then only the appeal, only the bench will consider our application. And if the bench is convinced, then only the bench will allow us to file the additional documents. Similarly, additional ground also, if we need to file any additional ground before the ITAT, then we have to move an application, and additional ground needs to be, we should convince why additional ground is being filed, and therefore the additional ground also needs to be considered by the ITAT, and then only it can be admitted by the tribunal. So ITAT has very wide power in regard to these things. Generally, all legal grounds are admitted even if raised as the additional ground, and partly we have to justify why additional ground is being raised. And then in regard to this, law is well settled that ITAT has wide powers and legal grounds should be admitted by the ITAT if facts are already on record. And in this regard, the basic decision is the National Thermal Power Company Limited, wherein it is there, if there is a legal ground and facts are already there, then tribunal should admit the ground. Then just an example I have taken, there is a tribunal decision that depreciation was not correctly claimed as per section 32 on goodwill. So the additional ground was raised. So facts were already there. So additional ground needs to be admitted in this case. Now there is a very important decision, VMT Spinning Company Limited. This is a Punjab Haryana High Court. You see, as I mentioned, normally for admission of additional evidence, we must file an application before the ITAT, and then our application will be considered, and ITAT, this will be discussed, and then ITAT bench will allow us to admit the additional ground or not. Then only they will proceed further. But in this judgment, the issue was that oral ground was raised at the time during the course of hearing of the appeal. Now the issue before the Honorable Court was whether we can raise ground orally also during the course of hearing or not. So the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court has considered this aspect, and they have said that income tax rule does not require the same to be in writing. Merely it states that appellant shall not accept with the leave of the tribunal, urge or be heard in support of any ground set forth in the memorandum of appeal. So in a fit case, always open to the tribunal to permit an appellant to raise an additional ground not set forth in the memorandum of appeal. So this decision is of a good support, because many times it happens that when we are arguing an appeal before the tribunal, a new issue comes up during the course of discussion itself, and it is a purely a legal issue. So we raise that this is a legal issue, please admit and entertain. So that now, in the light of this judgment, the tribunal cannot say that we will not admit. If it is a legal ground, legal contention, and there is no investigation of facts required, no additional facts are required, so then tribunal should admit. It is not necessary that every application or every ground should be raised only in writing.
Sir,
Now,
we are,
as for
sir,
the
excuse me,
rectification, yes.
sir, we are having 10 minutes more.
Yes, I'll finish within 10 minutes. Don't worry, Rajesh. I'll finish in 10 minutes. Now this is rectification. I'm almost at the end. As far as the rectification is concerned, you see, earlier there was a time limit of 4 years for rectification of the order by the Aiftp. Now the time limit has been reduced from 4 years to 6 months. Now, the language also says that appellate tribunal may at any time within 6 months from the end of the month in which the order was passed, with a view to rectify any mistake apparent from the record, amend any order passed by it under subsection so and so, and shall make such amendment if the mistake is brought to the notice by the SSC and the assessing officer. Now, there is a difficulty in this. Firstly, it says that order needs to be passed within 6 months. Rectification needs to be done within 6 months. Now, earlier, also the rectification could be done within 4 years. But there have been a lot of case law that if I have filed the application within 4 years, then this needs to be rectified. It is not that it should be rectified within 4 years. So on the same basis, now even if I file the application within 6 months, it should be rectified. Order should be rectified, but now the language is very emphatic. In fact, the order needs to be rectified within 6 months. So, but still the view is being taken generally that if I file the application within 6 months, then this order tribunal has the power to rectify that and should be rectified. But still, there is a controversy in regard to this particular aspect. So this I may mention. Then, if the application is being made, then the opportunity has to be given to the other party for hearing, and then only the rectification to be made. This rectification application is normally filed by way of miscellaneous application. So again, we have to give a proper reason what is the mistake, how what we want in rectification, that should be specifically mentioned, and this needs to be filed in triplicate, and this will be 50 rupees and all that. Now, power of the stay. Again, there is a difficulty. Power of the stay are there before the tribunal. Specific power are provided in the law, but it says that the stay can be granted by the ITAT. Earlier, it was that once the stay is granted, it will be valid not exceeding 180 days. And during that period, the tribunal will decide the appeal. And if for any reason not attributable to the SSC, appeal could not be decided, stay could be extended, but not for more than a period of 365 days. So this was there. Now, by Finance Act 2020, the law has further been amended. This says that stay will be granted only if the SSC has deposited not less than 20% of the amount of the tax or has furnished security to that equivalent amount. Now the difficulty is that what will happen, whether the tribunal can grant the full stay or not grant the stay, or in any case we have to pay 20% of that. Actually, there are two parts of thing. One is the period of 365 days, which is there, the overall limitation, and now other aspect is 20% thing. As far the earlier part of 365 days is concerned, you see, the law itself provided that delay is not attributable to the SSC. In many cases, it is happening that because tribunal is overburdened. In fact, in many cases, daily we see that 30 to 40 cases are fixed before the tribunal, and they are not able to take up the cases. And even the stay application, cases in which the stay has been granted, they are not being taken. The tribunal bench do not find the time to dispose of the same, and therefore, for the want of time, the cases are adjourned. And when adjournment is done, at least 2 months, 3 months time again is there, because tribunal doesn't have the time to give the next date early through that. So there has been difficulty that what is the impact of this period 365 days. This matter has gone to the courts, whether the tribunal can grant the stay for more than 365 days or not. So in this case, the very important decision the Gujarat High Court, Vodafone SR Gujarat Limited, is a very important decision in this regard. In this case, the detailed discussion is there that when the delay is not attributable to the SSE, tribunal has not been able to decide the matter within 365 days, then the tribunal has the inherent power to extend the time. This limitation of 365 days cannot be enforced. That is the impact, that is the nutshell, the decision of this court. And to the same effect is the decision of Delhi High Court in the case of Pepsi Food Private Limited. Here, the Honorable Court has discussed that you say that where the SSE has delay is not attributable to the SSE. So how can you make a distinction between the SSE, one who is SSE is always willing to argue the case, delay is not attributable to this, still you are saying that his stay cannot be extended beyond 365 days. So the Honorable High Court considered this and said that this is discriminatory, and they say, lastly, they have said that this is violative and non-discriminatory clause of Article 14 of the Constitution of India. So this is what about 365 days. The courts have already taken a view that limitation of 365 days will not be applicable in this case. Now, other aspect comes the 20% part of this. Again, when the Supreme Court in case of Mohammed Kunni has taken a view, there is an inherent power of the court to grant the stay in justified cases. So this particular issue is under consideration. A special bench has been constituted by the president for on this aspect. This matter is going to be heard very soon. How this limitation is to be interpreted by the honorable benches of the tribunal, but hopefully this is violative of the principles of natural justice and powers of the ITAT, and therefore this limit of 20% imposed by the law will not be enforceable. Either the tribunal takes the decision or some high court will pass the order to this effect. That is what I hope. Now, as for the appearance and how the case should be argued before the ITAT, which is a very important practical aspect, I'm just going to this particular aspect, which we practically view should be taken. So whenever the appeal, as per the practice, the appeal is firstly argued, arguments will be started by the appellant. Who is the appellant in the matter? He will start the arguments in the appeal. Then how the appeal is to be argued. Again, as I mentioned in the case of commission appeal, that we have a limited time. Within that limited time, we should put the facts and the case law and our contention in such a manner that we are able to immediately convince the authorities that so and so issue is there and this is my case. So to start with, firstly, we should take the honorable bench to our memorandum appeal. We should point out what are the grounds taken in appeal, and in case any of the grounds is directly covered by my own orders in earlier years or by a direct legal ground is there by order of the High Court or Supreme Court, we should specifically mention therein. Or if there is some ground which I do not want to press because subsequently rectification might have been done or for some other reason, we should specifically point out. And in case there is a different grounds have been taken for this one issue, then we should also point out that the ground number 1 to 4 are all relating to addition made under section 14A. So we'll be dealing with the one issue itself. So the 1 to 4 can be taken in a combinedly manner. So we should put up the things in such a manner that the bench gets convinced by our things and is able to understand what we say. So in a shortest possible manner, we should try to put our points to the point factually and legally. Firstly, we must explain the facts. When we are starting a particular ground, firstly, we should take the bench to the ground, then to the assessing officer's order, what the assessing officer said, how the commissioner appeal has dealt with, then what have been my facts before the AO and the commissioner appeal, how they have not considered my facts and the contention. This should be specifically pointed out, and in case I pointed out any case law, what is wrong, why he has not accepted my case law or he has not referred to, we should specifically point out all these things to the bench. Then after the appellant has finished his argument, then the respondent will get an opportunity who has to give a rebuttal through the all arguments to the appellant, and then again the appellant's side will get a opportunity to rejoinder. In rejoinder, he cannot raise an additional contention. He has to give reply only to the arguments raised by the respondent. Now, this is all about the arguments and all that, and the tribunal doesn't have the power of the enhancement. I have discussed with the powers of the enhancement. Particularly important is that tribunal doesn't have the powers of enhancement, and all the appeals are heard by the two members normally, accountant member, judicial member, except in the cases where the assessed income is less than 50 lakhs, which appeal can be heard by the single member. And in case there is a difference of opinion, then matter is referred to the third member. And in case there is a very important issue, then a special bench needs to be constituted. And order of the ITT is final as far as the factual aspect is concerned. So this is all. But now one thing I want to, in conclusion, I want to say one more thing, the practical aspect of the things. You see, many times, because either we are arguing before Commissioner Appeal or we are arguing before the ITAT. You see, any person who is judge, who is sitting at this particular chair, rightly or wrongly, there is a lot of difficulty with counsels who are arguing. Firstly, many of the authorities, many of the members or many of the commissioners will straightway jump. Whenever you start, they will just say, what is there in your appeal? This needs to be dismissed. Everything has been considered. So you have to learn the art how to tackle this sort of a situation. This is very important, practical aspect of things. You have to maintain your cool. Let him say whatsoever he has said, and then you start. Okay, sir, you are perfectly right, but the point is just see this page. This is the thing. This is what is there. This is what commissioner has wrongly written. This is the case law. He has not even referred to that, or the assessing officer has not considered this. So we have to maintain our cool before any authority, whether it is the Commissioner Appeal or before ITAT, particularly before ITAT. Before Commissioner Appeal, sometimes you may get agitated, or it may be necessary, in fact, I'll say, because there you are one-to-one. If the Commissioner Appeal is talking anything nonsense or anything which is not understanding the law, then in certain exceptional circumstances, you may dare to say, sir, it is not like this, it is like this. Or I'll explain to you, please refer to this. But before ITAT, you have to be very careful. Even if one of the member is saying something which is not convincing to you or which may not be legally or factually correct, but still you have to maintain your cool and you have to tackle with him very patiently and deal with him and put your point in a different manner. This is what I have said. Thank you very much. So this is what all I have said about it.
Thanks a lot, VP Gupta Sahab, for nice deliberation on very useful and important topic, and heartiest thanks. And before I invite our today's session chairman, I want to make an announcement for tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be having an important issue regarding important issues in reassessment under income tax, and we will be having a very learned and renowned speaker, Ajay R. Singh, advocate from Mumbai. And tomorrow we will be having session chairman C. Anil Garg Saab from Indore. So tomorrow also there is a very important topic which we are facing in our day-to-day practice. So I also request to all the participants to join timely tomorrow also. Now I invite, before I take up the question and answer session, I invite our today's session chairman, senior chartered accountant, CA HM Sanghvi Saab.
राजेश जी, उनका इंटरनेट कनेक्शन चला गया, लाइट चली गई उनके यहाँ।
अच्छा,
तो वो फिर जैसे आएगी आप तब तक क्वेरीज कर लें अपन।
ठीक है, we will handle the queries. So I request VP Gupta Sahab to reply the queries. So first of all, I call upon Himanshu Gadhian ji to.
Himanshu ji, please unmute yourself. Yeah, Himanshu ji, say.
Yes, Himanshu, yes, बताएं.
हिमांशु गधियन जी बोलिए सर, आपका हिमांशु जी सुन रहे हैं आप? हिमांशु जी, आर यू लिसनिंग?
बोलिए, हमारा तो क्वेरी नहीं है। हेलो, हाँ Himanshu
Achha.
Kadian would.
No, he
Yes,
might.
sir. Say we are listening to you.
Okay, I think he might not be having query. So we go to next. Vishwaraj Agarwal ji. Vishwaraj Agarwal ji.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, Vishwas. Yes,
Hello.
please. Yes,
Sir?
please. Yes.
Sir, actually, I have a query. During the time of assessment by an AO, my client was an advocate, so he was required to submit some title deeds, around 26 title deeds. Page number, so it was very much volume, 700 pages. Hello.
Yeah, you are not clearly audible, please.
Audible now, sir?
Be a little slow in speaking.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, actually, my client is an advocate.
Yes. Okay.
Advocate. So he was during the time of assessment.
Yes.
The AO issued us a notice for submitting the submissions on 16th December.
Okay.
Giving us time to submit the details by 18th December.
Okay.
The notice was uploaded on the website on 16th December night.
Right. I understand. In fact, in my deliberation, I myself mentioned this thing. This has happened in the last December, in fact, very much.
Now the thing is that the volume of the submissions were more than 800 pages.
Okay.
I could not upload the same in the website.
No, now you have filed the appeal before Commissioner Appeal or not?
Yes, sir. But listen to me. One thing. There is a.
Okay.
When I went to submit the submissions to the AO, he rejected the same. He did not accept because he told that you are late by 1 day.
He will not accept. He will not accept. Now you have to file the application before Commissioner Appeal.
Thereafter, listen to me, sir.
Yes.
On the same day, I mailed the whole detail.
Okay, Vishwaraj ji. So Gupta Sahab is telling right that AO has no power now. Only the CIT appeal will treat it as an additional evidence, and he will call for the remand report from the assessing officer. So because we have to handle other queries also, so you are required to submit your further reply to the CIT appeals, and he will call for the remand report from your jurisdictional assessing officer.
Along with the application in Rule 46A, you should file all these documents to the Commissioner Appeal. In that, you should specifically mention that notice dated so and so was served on us, which was on email, loaded by the assessing officer at so and so time, received by us at so and so time.
Okay, next, we may take next query.
Yes.
Jyoti Kanoja, unmute yourself. Jyoti Kanoja, unmute yourself. Jyoti Kanoja, unmute yourself.
Sir, I think she is not here. We have to take next.
Say next, Vijay Chadda ji. Vijay Chadda ji.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Vijay ji.
My query is very simple regarding in the absence. Sometimes we could not reach the tribunal before the bench, and the appeal is dismissed in limine in the absence in a summary manner without or not on merits.
Okay.
What is the position of law?
Position of the law is that you have to file a miscellaneous application for restoration of the appeal. You have to give a justification that why you did not appear. And normally in these cases, if your justification is valid, justification is supported by affidavit, so normally the tribunal will restore.
My means only it is correct, but whether it is correct law, the natural justice principles of natural justice merits, we have filed the written submissions.
You have to make out a case that why you did not appear.
But we did the submission for on record on file.
No, you
on paper book.
You already submitted written submissions.
Yes.
That
not been considered, ignored.
Okay, so in the miscellaneous application, you should write this, that you file the written submissions and paper book, which we requested you to consider at the time of hearing, but same has not been considered. So either now the appeal should be restored and opportunity for hearing may be given.
That's right. Your good self means the law is correct. This can be dismissed.
Cross-question, sir, please.
Yes,
please.
Okay.
So many people are there.
Shilpa
Shingre.
Yes, sir. Sir, what would be the consequences post rejection of the case is decided against the assessing CIT appeals? So what are the next steps the assessee will have to do? Like,
Go and appeal to the tribunal.
yeah, but then let's say AO will start demanding the money also, like 20% we are paid while going for the appeals.
You have to file stay application before tribunal, and tribunal will consider the stay whether it should be granted or not granted.
So that we will have to do within 60 days or something.
Yes, immediately. But the tribunal, normal practice, the tribunal will say now before the commissioner appeal, before the commissioner or AO, you should again file a stay application. Though specific power are not there, but still you should, because the tribunal will consider whether you have approached the commissioner or not. So you should go to the commissioner or the assessing officer requesting for granting further stay till the decision of appeal by ITAT. They may not consider, but that should be on record. So those correspondence you should show to the tribunal with the stay application. In my presentation, which has already been circulated, I have given what are the steps to be taken while filing the stay application. So kindly look into that.
Chiranjeevilu E.
Yeah,
Chiranjeevilu. Yes.
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 Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Appearing before the honorable tribunals, many times it was observed that the commissioners was giving proper thought and to go through the grounds of appeal, and they are simply accepting the AO's assessments, and naturally we are forced to go to the tribunal. A representation can be made to see that CITs also give a proper thought to our cases.
You see, as far as this is judicial power with any authority.
Yes,
Even if you say that commissioner is not adjudicating the appeal properly, so no authority as a matter of principle doesn't want to interfere in a judicial power of any judicial authority or any appellate authority. So we cannot say that he has not passed the order properly. He might have passed the wrong order. You have the remedy, so that is to be done. This cannot be. This you may take up in a general way with representation and thing, but this is not the practical approach which can be done.
Yeah, Tulji. See, Tulji.
Sir, many times we fight hard, and the appeal judgment was in our favor, but the appeal effect was not given by the AO expediently. They are taking too much time. Can we have any legal ground on which we can demand that appeal effect should be given earlier?
अतुल जी, आजकल तो बहुत अच्छी रेमेडी मिल गई है आपको, पीएम साइट पे जाइएगा, उस पे ग्रीवेंस डालिएगा, फटाफट होता है काम.
And you can make an application to your jurisdictional chief commissioner also for early.
Yes.
Yes. And next will be Hemant Chand.
PM grievance बहुत effective है.
Yes. Hemant Chand. Hemant Chand.
Hemant ji, please unmute yourself. Hemant ji, please. Yeah, he's unmuted.
हाँ, हेमंत जी अनम्यूट है. हेमंत जी बोलिए आपकी क्वेरी. हेमंत जी है नहीं है. हेमंत जी अनम्यूट तो हो गए. हेमंत जी
नेक्स्ट ले लीजिए सब. नेक्स्ट
Sarangarajan ji.
Yeah, good evening, Sarangarajan.
Yes, Sarang.
There is an appeal filed before the CIT appeals.
Okay.
The grounds has been raised.
Okay.
A remand report was called from the assessing officer.
Okay.
Remand report was not given for argument for us.
Okay.
But the CIT appeal has passed the order against the assessing.
In case he has called for the remand report, then remand report is copy of the same is supposed to be given. In case he is relying upon that remand report of the assessing officer, or he's saying, then copy is supposed to be given. But now if the order has been passed, you can't do anything. You have to go to the tribunal. You have to raise all this contention there. Right?
Next, sir.
Next, Advocate Akash Kumar ji.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, audible.
Sir, if they have a query, if there is a typographical error while filing Form 35, so is there any procedure to follow to revise the Form 35?
You see, you can do that, but at the time of hearing, you can point out that this is a mistake. So, commissioner, you can point out to the commissioner at the time of hearing. In fact, there is no procedure. Now, if you're reloading, I don't think that there is any procedure like that.
Annamalai Krishnamurthy ji. Next.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Actually, one of my assessee approached the court for stay of demand, where the court had passed an order to with the 20% to pay the 20% and go for stay.
Okay.
Normally, it will be the 20% is given by the commissioner itself. But when we approached the court, we had approached only for lower deposit of amount, but they had asked to deposit 20%. Whether there is any other chance?
Once the court, I suppose the High Court you are talking about.
Yeah, High Court, yeah.
Then
no other chance.
only remedy is going to the Supreme Court, which I don't think that if the amount is very high and there are sufficient good reasons, then you can think of going to the Supreme Court.
Okay, the amount is very high. Okay.
So then sir. Consider going to the Supreme Court if the case is good.
Next, Baidyanath Agarwal ji.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Baidyanath ji.
You have emphasized upon the statement of facts to be drafted properly.
Yes.
Before CIT appeal.
Yes.
But my experience of around 48 years,
yes,
CIT appeal hardly refers to the statement of facts, either in the course of hearing or while passing the order. Not a single line is reproduced in the order. He only reproduces the facts stated in the assessment order. Can AIFT take any action on this and write to the board?
नहीं, देखिए वो मैंने जो आपको एम्फेसाइज किया वो मैंने इसलिए एम्फेसाइज किया कि मान लो, देखिए आप अगर आर्ग्यूमेंट के लिए अपीयर होते हैं कमिश्नर अपील के सामने तो आप रिटन सबमिशंस देंगे. Written submissions will take care of all your facts as well as the legal contention. But in case for any reason you are not able to appear before the commissioner appeal, then statement of facts में रिकॉर्ड पे तो है आपकी बात, अदरवाइज तो रिकॉर्ड पे नहीं है. अगर असिस्टिंग ऑफिसर ने आपके फैक्ट्स लिखे नहीं है और आपने स्टेटमेंट ऑफ फैक्ट्स भी फाइल नहीं किया है तो फिर क्या होगा? फिर then your ground before tribunal will not survive. So this is why it is important that statement of facts should be written properly and it should be on record. अब AIFTP cannot just take this issue कि statement of facts को record रेफर नहीं करता तो इसलिए जो है उसको रेफर करने की डायरेक्शन दी जाए. This is again judicial power. One cannot direct to anybody.
KK Singla जी Patiala.
जी सर. हाँ जी सर. राजेश जी नमस्कार. गुप्ता जी, संदीप जी, सभी को नमस्कार.
Yes.
Sir, in one of my cases, it was a case of reassessment for the assessment year 12-13.
Yes.
In that case, the reasons recorded were in respect of cash deposit in bank amounting to 18 crores.
Okay.
I submitted the reply that these are my bank accounts and this is the vice versa copy of from my books of account is a audited case.
Okay.
So this deposit was made against cash sales and the total amount is 12 crore, not 18 crores.
Okay.
So I submitted a list of all the transactions from where the cash was received. And I also made a request to the AO that I should be afforded an opportunity of personal hearing for producing the relevant record because it is very voluminous.
Okay.
So now I am in appeal. The assessment was making an additional 12 crores. The record which I wanted to produce there, these were in the shape of copies of accounts from the persons from whom I received the cash and the sale bills to whom I made the cash sales. The assessee is actually in the business of harvesting combines. And the most of the customers are agriculturists. And so they receive the cash amount. So whether this is a additional evidence or I should produce it before the CIT appeal along with the written submissions.
सिंगला साहब, ये टेक्निकली एडिशनल एविडेंस है. आपने ग्राउंड जो भी ली होगी, ग्राउंड इसमें ये जरूर बनती थी कि भाई वी हैड एक्सप्लेन टू हिम और वी हैड स्टेटेड टू हिम दैट व्हेनेवर ही रिक्वायर्ड वी विल प्रोड्यूस द रिकॉर्ड बिफोर हिम. रिकॉर्ड वाज वॉल्यूमिनस बट ही हैज नॉट गिवन ए प्रॉपर अपॉर्चुनिटी. बट अभी आपको ये नहीं है कि ये आप कहें कि कमिश्नर को खाली जो बिना रिकॉर्ड के ले जाएं कि जी उसको डायरेक्शन दे दो, वो रिकॉर्ड एग्जामिन कर ले. देखिए आपका जहां अमाउंट इतना बड़ा इन्वॉल्व है, अगर आपने सारे रिकॉर्ड की फोटोकॉपी भी करनी पड़ी, मान लो अगर एग्जाम्पल, तो 20,000 रुपए का कॉस्ट आ जाएगी. तो आप सारे रिकॉर्ड ऐसे केसेस में इट इज ऑलवेज एडवाइजेबल आप सारे रिकॉर्ड की फोटोकॉपी करें, उसको प्रॉपरली बाइंड अप करके सीरियल सीक्वेंस में लगा करके उसका इंडेक्सेशन करें और कमिश्नर अपील के पास लेके जाएं, बाहर गाड़ी में रखवा दें उसको. 1 महीने का साहब, ये 1 महीने का रिकॉर्ड ये है और मेरे पास बाहर गाड़ी में पूरे साल का रखा है, मैं आपके यहाँ पे ये लगवा देता हूँ। ये सारा रिकॉर्ड है, ये मैंने एओ को कहा था कि मेरे को जो मेरा अपॉर्चुनिटी दो, मैं प्रोड्यूस कर दूंगा। अब उसने मेरे को अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं दी। अब आप ये रिकॉर्ड, मेरी ये एडिशनल एप्लीकेशन है एडिशनल एविडेंस के लिए, आप ये एडमिट करें, आप देखें या एओ को डायरेक्शन दें। जब आप उसके सामने ये रिकॉर्ड कहेंगे ना कि ये गाड़ी में रखा है 1 महीने का, ये 10 फाइलें 1 महीने की हैं, वो अपने आप कह देगा कि ये एडमिटेड, एओ को जो डायरेक्शन दे रहा हूँ उसके पास ले जाओ, उसको दिखा दो।
ओके सर,
1 मिनट में कह देगा, 1 मिनट से।
यस सर, नेक्स्ट स्वप्निल दत्त व्यास जी, स्वप्निल दत्त व्यास जी अनम्यूट
I
करिए।
think sir he is not here. I think he is not here.
ओके, रुपिन मर्चेंट जी, रुपिन
नीचे
व्यास।
हाँ,
स्वप्निल दत्त जी आ गए, स्वप्निल दत्त जी आ गए,
दत्त व्यास।
रुपिन मर्चेंट जी का बात में लेते हैं।
Sir, if we would like to go against the appeal of Commissioner of Income Tax in High Court or in Supreme Court, what would be the procedure, sir?
No, we cannot. We commission appeal, we have to go to the ITAT only.
ITAT only, sir. We can't go in High Court or Supreme
No,
Court.
No.
Okay, sir.
Rupin Merchant ji.
Yeah, sir, am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yeah, sir, my question is, we have filed appeal after assessment has been passed of 3 years.
Okay.
So whether we should put affidavit before CIT appeals at the time of hearing, this is my first question. And after that, if CIT appeals will not consider that affidavit or my condonation of delay application, in that case, whether I can file appeal before ITAT?
No, you have filed delayed appeal for 3 years at one time. So for each of the appeal, you have to file a separate application for condonation of delay. You should justify why there is a delay, why the appeal was not filed in time. Give a sufficient justification for each of the appeal. And then commissioner will consider, you should strongly argue your case, give justification, give legal cases. Then the commissioner will decide whether delay should be condoned or not condoned. In case he condone the delay, then you have to argue on merits. In case why you assume he will dismiss. In case he does not condone, then against that order you can go to the ITAT.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Next, Samir Bhatia ji. Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
I am having, in brief, just 2 queries. First queries pertain to the quantum of fee that is to be paid in case the order of penalty is in contest before the tribunal. Some high courts, they have per se taken a view that it falls within the residuary clause in case the penalty order is concerned.
Correct.
And a fee of 500 is to be paid.
That's right.
Whereas some contradictory judgments are there, including that of the Delhi Tribunal and other tribunal benches, where they have categorically settled that the full quantum, which means in case the fee which is applicable in case of assessments, that will be equally applicable in case of penalty orders. So what I basically intend to know from you is that in case of a challenge to penalty, what is the quantum of fee coming up before the tribunal, before the tribunal is concerned?
Technically it is 500.
Yes,
but I will suggest that we should not go for just a small dispute for this sort of things. When you are in a penalty appeal, penalty may be of 50 lakhs or 1 crore or 2 crore.
Yes.
And you should not dispute the 10,000 rupees or 500 rupees and all that. So
Okay,
please.
And the second,
in that case, registry will raise the objection. Tribunal matter will be heard by the IT bench, whether it's 500,000 or 10,000. So the cost of that will be still much more.
Can we, sir, otherwise, can we take the advantage of the pronouncement of the Honorable Bombay High Court on the issue? That it is in fact the 500 which is required to be paid since it is a writ court.
You see, of course, initially you should pay 500 only. You file the appeal. In case the registry raises an objection, then pay balance amount. That's
right, sir. Right, sir. Second query pertains to the very issue that in a challenge to 263 proceedings, whether the tribunal they in fact have the power to stay the proceedings, the pending, for completion before the assessing officer, where in fact no demand is involved. There are in fact, conflicting views. Some benches of the ITAT, they have permitted in case of, let's say, NIT's case, wherein the bench has in fact permitted in view of the Mohammed Kuni's judgment. They say that ITAT has the power to grant stay even in that matter where demand is not involved. So basically what I want to know is whether the ITAT has a general power they have to stay the proceedings where demand is not involved, or they have to stay only the demand part, the proceedings pertaining to the demand part only.
देखिए जो लॉ है वो स्पेसिफिक है, दे कैन स्टे एनी प्रोसीडिंग, बट प्रैक्टिकली ट्रिब्यूनल जनरली 263 में स्टे नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो अर्ली हियरिंग दे देते हैं उसमें। तो इसमें आपकी तरफ से इशू यही है कि जैसे ही आपने अपील फाइल करी, इमीडिएटली उसको अर्ली हियरिंग की एप्लीकेशन लगाइएगा, एंड नॉर्मली ट्रिब्यूनल ग्रांट्स अर्ली हियरिंग, and many times it is order is passed even before the order is passed by the matter is taken up by the
Okay,
AO.
sir. Okay,
Last
sir.
question, sir.
HM Sanghvi Saab, Senior Chartered Accountant, who is the session chairman of today's program, has joined us. I will ask respected HM Sanghvi Saab to give his session chairman remarks, and also will request him to kindly start his video. HM Sanghvi Saab.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, HM Sanghvi Saab, yes. Start.
Sir, please start your video.
संघवी साहब आपने, हाँ यस यस, आप अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा सर, आपको अनम्यूट लिखा रहा है। अनम्यूट, प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ सर। संघवी साहब प्लीज अनम्यूट, अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ।
सर अब कीजिए, आप अनम्यूट कीजिए सर।
हाँ यस हो गया अनम्यूट उनका।
नहीं हुआ, अनम्यूट नहीं हुआ।
नहीं हुआ
सर, खुद को
सेल्फ अनम्यूट करना होगा।
ना सर, वापस म्यूट कर लिया उन्होंने।
he is not able to।
ठीक है अब ठीक है।
यस सर, यस। हाँ हस्तीमल जी साहब, यस बोलिए सर।
First of all, I will just like to thank very much to Mr. Pankaj Bhaiya and Mr. Mathur and to Mr. Jolly that they have spoken very good words for me. Whether I deserve it or not, it is for them. And I will like to compliment and give my congratulations to V.P. Gupta, who has in such a short time has taken out all the smallest points for all of us to consider while preparing the appeal, filing the appeal, and even arguing before the CIT appeal and the tribunal. And regarding the stay application, now he has probably, while in the case of the grounds of appeal before the CIT appeal and the tribunal, we have to take first the legal grounds, and thereafter the factual grounds have to be taken before the CIT appeal and before the tribunal also. And if any of the grounds they are not taken up either by the CIT appeal or not decided by the CIT appeal or the tribunal, then we have to file a rectification application before the CIT appeal, and in case before the tribunal, we have to go for miscellaneous petition. And we have to file the paper book before the CIT appeal and also before the tribunal for all the evidences and the papers which we are otherwise connected. And we have to, in our written submissions, we have to refer to all the pages in our paper book and regarding the judgments quoted by us and submitted before the CIT appeal or before the ICO, assessing officer. Similarly, before the tribunal, we have to refer to each page of our paper book and index and the judgments, so that we will have a good case for our miscellaneous application before the tribunal if we do not consider it and they do not follow the legal order. With these words, I give my congratulations to V.P. Gupta and many thanks to the All India Federation of Tax Practitioners and particularly to Mr. Pankaj Bhaiya, Bathur and Jolly and to yourself. Thank you very much for calling.
सिंघवी साहब गुड इवनिंग, स्पेशली वीपी गुप्ता, आपके शायद दर्शन करने का मौका मिला है जयपुर में, मैं मुलाकात हुई। यस, जयपुर ट्रिब्यूनल में मुलाकात। हाँ जी मुलाकात हुई 2 दिन बाद जो है तो अच्छा है। जूम मीटिंग में आपके दर्शन हुए तो अच्छा।
थैंक्स अ लॉट टू रिस्पेक्टेड,
थैंक यू।
Thanks a lot to respected Sanghvi Sahab. He is a very senior chartered accountant of age more than 80 years, and he has spared valuable time to give blessings to us also. And now I invite further other queries from Annamalai Krishnamurthy ji.
Annamalai please unmute yourself. Annamalai please unmute yourself. Sir, I think he's not here. Take next query. One.
VS Jaykumar Saab. VS Jaykumar Saab from Chennai.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good afternoon.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Sir, against the reopening of assessment on
आपका इंटरनेट जो
Sir, your voice is not coming, sir. VS Jaykumar Saab, your voice is not
after notice under 148 objection has been filed against 148 notice.
Okay.
Then officer passes an order.
Okay.
Based on the case. Is it audible?
Yeah. So आवाज
Am I audible, sir?
No, voice is not clear. In fact, it is cutting
Now
in between.
audible. Is it audible now?
Anyway, you have said objections are filed. He passed the order. Then after that,
then I went on a writ petition against the order.
Okay.
Then the judge says you have an alternative remedy.
Yes.
Please don't. What do you say to that? So I have filed an appeal earlier.
Okay.
I had told the judge, yes, I will withdraw it. The judge said you choose a forum, either the High Court or the CIT appeals. Now, I a withdrawal letter, a conditional withdrawal letter, that in case the High Court says, come back to me, please appeal being entertained. Is it correct?
You see, देखिए ऐसा है. This is a very confusing issue. In fact, I may just for the information tell that GK and drive shaft was the case represented by me before Supreme Court. In fact,
yes,
that was my SSC. In fact, in that matter. So in that case, the clear directions were given to the department, and the process was laid down that the regions will be provided, then objections will be filed, and then assessing officer will pass the order disposing of the objections, passing the speaking order.
Correct.
And laid down. Now the confusion is arising against that order of the disposal of the objections. What is the remedy?
Correct.
Because many times we file the appeal before commissioner against that order also, and
Correct.
Commissioner appeal have accepted that appeal also. And when the order is passed, we file the appeal against the assessment order. Both the appeals are taken up together and we argue before Commissioner appeal. Many times it happens. Many court decisions, High Court decisions are there where against the order disposing the objections, writs have been filed, and High Courts have forcefully considered the matter and direction have been issued. But now there is a main issue, in fact, is that how are we gaining by challenging that order before the High Court or before the Commissioner? That is the issue, in fact. So practically, if we go to the High Court, what we'll say that assessing officer has not considered my objections properly. And so most of the cases, what the High Court does, they will remand the matter to the AO that you pass the again order considering the objections. That doesn't help us in any way. That is we are in dilemma, in fact. That is our difficulty.
We have been successful in Madras.
Just a minute, let me say, if you are hopeful, because now you have already gone to the High Court, you have not got the relief from there on the basis of a remedy. Now, I will suggest that against this, you should go only to the Commissioner appeal. If you are very forceful that your legal issue is very correct and you High Court will entertain, then you will be able to convince the High Court that basic reasons were not justifiable for reopening the assessment and therefore assessment has been wrongly reopened. Then you have a good case. You should go to the High Court. But in your case, you have already gone. But in those cases, only the High Court one should go. Otherwise, what we should do, we should only go to the Commissioner appeal and challenge on merits, in fact. And merits, those contentions can also be taken and then go to the tribunal. Because it is not serving any purpose if the matter is remanded to the AO at any stage.
Okay, sir. Next query from Samir Kumar Gupta ji. Samir Kumar Gupta, Akola. Samir
Yes,
Kumar
sir.
Gupta ji.
Good evening, sir. I am audible.
Yes, please.
And there is an appeal file against the order of the penalty order by the AO. Then it is mandatorily required to pay 20% of tax or particularly stay application?
No, there is no requirement as such. You have to file the stay application before the assessing officer or the Commissioner administration, and if they are not doing anything, then you can file stay application before Commissioner appeal also. But There is no such condition. There is no such condition that you have to pay 20%.
Okay, now we are having only two queries. One from Mr. Hemant Chandji.
So Samir Bhatia ji already told his query. Hemant Chandji, sir.
Okay.
Hemant Chandji is here, sir. Hemant ji, you are listening our voice? Hemant ji? Okay, I think Hemant ji is not here. Hemant ji?
Samir Bhatia ji?
Sir, I am unmuting Samir Bhatia ji.
Hello.
Okay, Samir Bhatia.
Sir, am I audible, please?
Yes, please.
Sir, in case of, the GK and drive shafts order itself,
yes,
the directives, they are not complied with the authorities on pan-India basis. And in Home Finder Society's judgment, it was primarily a limni order. And it is categorically settled in a 3-judge bench order itself by the Supreme Court in Coded Distillery that a limni order will not be operative as a precedent.
Okay.
So the department at times, they intend to take the shield of the order of the Home Finder Society's judgment that merely by non-complying with GK and drive shafts order, the order cannot be quashed. So in my humblest of my opinion, that non-compliance with the order of the Supreme Court in GK and drive shafts case, will it lead to the absolute questioning of the order, or a remand is the appropriate remedy coming up insofar as challenge to that order on the impugned directions they are concerned?
You see, that is the unfortunate part. In fact, order should be quashed. If the assessing officer is not following the proper procedure laid down by Supreme Court, then order deserves to be quashed. But most of the appellate authorities or even the high courts in our present system, they do not, what should I say, they do not do that. They just remand the matter to the AO. That is the unfortunate part.
Okay, Hemant Chandji is here. Hemant Chandji is here.
But I think he is not here.
Okay. So any other queries? Any other queries?
No, nobody here, sir. Nobody here.
Oh, Sachin Hans was also raising some queries. So we will Sachin Hans जी आप अनम्यूट कीजिए अपने आप को. Yes, Sachin Hans जी अनम्यूट कीजिए.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Audible.
Sir, my question is concerned with the condonation of delay, sir, in appeal with CIT.
Okay.
Sir, it is said that there should be sufficient causes for condonation of delay.
Correct.
Sir, I am lacking some experience, so I need some advice. Sir, what type of grounds are generally accepted for condonation of delay?
Sachin bhai, so this may not be the query in my opinion. Whatever is the genuine reason, whatever is the true and correct reason, only that we have to raise before the CIT appeal for condonation of delay. There cannot be any story.
Sir, but I had filed an appeal on medical grounds. That is rejected, sir.
No. Okay. So one Mr. Nirav Kumar Patel is also asking query. So one Nirav Kumar Patel. Nirav ji, unmute yourself. Nirav ji, yes, Nirav ji, please. Nirav Kumar Patel ji. Okay.
ये कवर हो जाएगा. उनकी क्वेरी है कि हाउ टू गेट ए रिफंड. आई थिंक गुप्ता साहब has already
kindly give an application to jurisdictional CIT also to kindly give the appeal effect at the earliest, so he will get the refund. Nirav ji, this is reply to your query. Kindly give an application to your jurisdictional AO, additional CIT and CIT, you will get the earliest refund by appeal effect. Tayyib Khan Sahab has one query. Tayyib Khan Sahab has one query. Tayyib Khan Sahab, unmute कीजिए सर अपने आप को. Unmute कीजिए सर अपने आप को. Yes sir. हाँ Tayyib.
Am I audible now?
Yes sir.
हाँ तैयब कैसे हैं?
Good evening sir.
Good evening, very well. आप बताएं.
सर एक क्वेश्चन है, CIT अपील के यहाँ पेनल्टी का ऑर्डर है.
ओके.
और CIT अपील ने अपने ऑर्डर में मतलब उसको एक्सपार्टी ऑर्डर किया और ये लिखा है कि आपको इन डेट्स में 6 नोटिसेस दी गई हियरिंग की.
ओके.
बस none of the notice have been received on my email or SSC's mail.
ओके.
तो अब सर उसमें क्या रेमेडी हो सकती है? 154 वहां हम फाइल कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, 154 नहीं होगा. उसमें ट्रिब्यूनल में ही जाना पड़ेगा. ट्रिब्यूनल में आपको एफिडेविट देना पड़ेगा कि ये जो है हमें मेल नहीं मिली है और उसकी आप जो भी एविडेंस सिस्टम से अगर कुछ निकल सकती है, मुझे नहीं मालूम कि इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिस्टम से कैसे निकलेगी, उससे मांगो, उसको डिलीवरी रिपोर्ट आनी चाहिए उसके पास।
हाँ, उसके पास तो उसने तो बाकायदा डेट मेंशन किया है, तो उससे रिपोर्ट मांगेंगे हम इस चीज को।
डेट मेंशन करना अलग बात है, अगर डिलीवरी नहीं होती है तो वापस आती है ना, जो वापस मेल बैक होती है उसको आती है।
तो रेमेडी सर जो है CIT लेवल पे कोई नहीं है।
हाँ, तो वो उससे मांगिएगा कि कोई एविडेंस नहीं है, आप जो नोटिस नहीं मिले हमें और ट्रिब्यूनल ही जाना पड़ेगा।
तो CIT लेवल पे कोई रेमेडी नहीं है।
नहीं।
Next query by Shubhankar Ghosh ji. Shubhankar Ghosh.
So Shubhankar Ghosh ji have not using his mic. There is no option.
Okay. So now we conclude today's session. We are highly thankful to our today's speaker, learned VP Gupta Sahab from New Delhi, and today's session chairman HM Sanghvi Sahab from Jaipur. And thanks a lot to all of the participants for sparing their valuable time and getting benefited by the good deliberation. And I hereby request all our participants to timely join tomorrow. Our Zoom session opens at 3:45 p.m. and the session will start at 4 p.m. from tomorrow. The topic of tomorrow's discussion is important issues in reassessment. Speaker is Advocate Ajay R. Singh from Mumbai, and the session chairman will be C. Anil Garg Saab from Indore. So I hereby invite all for tomorrow.
ये यूजर ID एंड पासवर्ड सेम ही रहेगा पूरे सेशन में।
Thank you.
So now we end the
session. I want to share that for your love and affection from all over India to AFTP, we daily crossed about 700 participants. It is huge love and affection and attachment, all of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So please leave yourself.
So the now meeting is hereby ended.